Namaskar friends. Pakistan is faced with a deadly and dangerous paradox in its security landscape. It sustained the Taliban for 20 years and helped them get back into power in Kabul in 2021. Yet today, it is exchanging gunfire with them. Similarly, the tribal elements that helped Pakistan to sustain the Taliban for 20 years are today grouped under the banner of the TEHRIK-I-TALIBAN Pakistan, or the TTP, but are daggers drawn with Pakistan. Worse, there is an organic connection between the Taliban and the TTP that is making it difficult for Pakistan to tackle the security challenge. I am Tilak Devasher, and you are watching the great game Reloaded. So how did Pakistan manage to create its own worst nightmare? Today, I look at one part of that nightmare, the TTP, that has declared war on the Pakistani state, yet it originated from Pakistan's own strategic policies. It is an insurgency that thrives inside Pakistan while Islamabad looks for enemies elsewhere. In 2014, the TTP crossed a line that shocked the world, the Peshawar school massacre. 132 children gunned down in cold blood. That attack forced Pakistan to act. The military launched Operation Zarb-e-Azb. Hundreds of militants were killed. The TTP was driven out of Waziristan, but it survived. For a while, the threat subsided. But now, 10 years on, the TTP is back, stronger, more defiant, and better armed. It is wreaking havoc across the country, primarily targeting Pakistan's security forces. There are no signs of abatement. And it is not operating from caves or hiding in remote hills in the tribal areas. It is striking in mainland Pakistan and Pakistan's cities. Some figures give a perspective. In 2024, Pakistan witnessed the highest number of terrorist attacks since 2014, with over 450 reported incidents claiming the lives of 475 security personnel, or almost 40 a month. Of course, not all were carried out by the TTP, but the bulk were. Just imagine, almost 40 security personnel being killed every month. The surge in violence raises a pressing question. Is Pakistan losing the battle against terrorism? Statistics seem to suggest so. Over the past 5 years, extremist violence, including targeted killings, suicide bombings, and assaults on security installations, has escalated significantly. Former tribal districts like Bajaur, North Waziristan and South Waziristan remain hotspots, while militants have expanded their reach to adjacent areas. Let's rewind to December 2007. That's when the TTP was formed. The catalyst was the army's attack on Islamabad's Lal Masjid, or Red Mosque, in July 2007. Even though the Lal Masjid was not in the tribal areas, about 70% of its madrasa students were. A coalition of militant groups operating from Pakistan's tribal areas, led by Baitullah Masood, unified to form the TTP to seek revenge for the killing of the students. The agenda was clear: wage jihad against the Pakistani state and establish Sharia rule. Interestingly, in 2008, Baitullah was named one of the world's 100 most influential figures of the year by Time magazine. The question is, if the army could crush the TTP earlier in 2014-16, why can't it do so again? There are at least 4 reasons. Unlike in 2014, today there is no consensus in Pakistan on carrying out another army operation in the tribal areas. If anything, there is internal disunity. The army and the elected government in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa are at odds about any operation. Then, Pakistan lacks resources to carry out another operation, while the army has no stamina for doing so. Public fatigue. Pakistanis are tired of endless wars in the tribal areas. Finally, cross-border sanctuaries. The TTP has secure haven in Afghanistan that it did not have in 2014. Besides, in the earlier period, American drones took out several TTP leaders. American drones are not available today. How does one explain the resurgence of the TTP. A key factor has been the Taliban return to power in Kabul in August 2021. Pakistan believed it had gained strategic depth, that the Afghan Taliban would now crack down on the TTP. That didn't happen. Pakistan's great strategic gamble backfired. The opposite happened. The Afghan Taliban declined to contain, disarm, or act against the TTP. Hundreds of TTP fighters were released from Afghan prisons. The TTP found new sanctuaries across the border in Afghanistan. The Taliban provided tacit support and armed the TTP. But why didn't the Taliban cooperate? Because the links of the TTP and the Afghan Taliban are deep and long-standing. In fact, the Afghan Taliban and the TTP are ideological twins. They share a common ideology and tribal ties. They share a common religious doctrine. To the Taliban in Kabul, the TTP is not a terror group. It's a fellow jihadist movement. What Pakistan did not seem to have factored in is that after the US invasion of Afghanistan in 2001, when the Taliban were on the run, it were the tribal elements of FATA that had sheltered them, with the blessings and encouragement of the Pakistan army. The group not only provided shelter to the Taliban in Pakistan's tribal areas, but also fought alongside them against the US and NATO forces. They had provided valuable logistical and operational support, including suicide bombers. Today, those tribal elements are grouped as the TTP. Under Pashtunwali, the Pashtun Code of Honor, the Afghan Taliban have an obligation to provide the TTP shelter in Afghanistan to return the favor. Also, there have been mergers with splinter groups. Almost 30 groups have merged with the TTP since 2020. The mergers brought other battle-hardened militants into the TTP ranks, boosting their capability. Then, outreach and tie-up with Baloch militant groups has helped the TTP expand its organizational presence into the ethnic Baloch areas for the first time. The TTP has transformed its organizational structure from an umbrella tribal organization with limited control at the top into a centralized structure similar to the Afghan Taliban. This includes a central commission with shadow provinces and central organizational units responsible for key portfolios. The number of shadow provinces is 12 and includes Punjab, Balochistan, and Gilgit-Baltistan. What is significant is that this state-like structure has enabled the TTP to counter the argument of the Pakistani Maulanas who have pointed out that only a state can declare jihad. The TTP has argued back that they are a state and quote their organizational structure as evidence. The TTP has bolstered its ground operations with an increasingly sophisticated media organization. Its main information outlet, Umar Media, produces audio, video, and text materials in half a dozen languages: Pashto, Urdu, English, Balochi, Dari, and Arabic. It even has a podcast called Pasoon. The central themes of the information output is to mobilize the Baloch and Pashtun population for a war against the security forces. Finally, access to modern weaponry, including the sophisticated M24 sniper rifle, night vision scopes, and thermal imaging, has made them more dangerous. These are the weapons that the United States forces had left behind when they withdrew from Afghanistan. Symptomatic of the TTP's resurgence is the rapid increase in the group's attacks and expansion from the tribal belt to mainland KPK and some other cities of the country. The attacks are strategically focused on the security forces. According to the Global Terrorism Index 2025, Pakistan is now ranked as the world's second most terrorism-affected country. This is a sharp climb from 10th place in 2022. In 2022, Pakistan held talks with the TTP, mediated by, you guessed it, the Afghan Taliban. And what happened? Prisoners were released, TTP commanders and cadres were allowed back in Pakistan, a temporary ceasefire was announced. It collapsed within months. The TTP's demands that they said were not negotiable were unacceptable to Pakistan. They wanted reversal of FATA's merger with Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, implementation of Sharia law, withdrawal of the army from tribal areas, and release of prisoners. The TTP has now become a potent threat to Pakistan's security and territorial integrity, intensifying its attacks against government forces, law enforcement, and some foreign interests and nationals in the country, especially the Chinese. It is the proverbial Frankenstein monster created in the name of foreign policy and national interest. Every time Pakistan has tried to use terrorists for its tactical foreign policy goals, terror has come back stronger to bite them. Pakistan hasn't learnt that terrorism is not a tap. You can't turn it on and off. So where does this leave Pakistan? With a militant group that won't negotiate? With a supposed ally in Kabul that won't help? With a civilian government that it has made powerless? And with an army that can't change and has limited imagination? The TTP is not just a security challenge. It is a strategic indictment of decades of double games and denial. If Pakistan wants peace, it must confront the ideology that fuels extremism. Because this time, the TTP is not fighting from the fringes. It is already in the house. The TTP is not an external force. It is Pakistan's own creation, a byproduct of policies that prioritized ideology over stability and proxies over sovereignty. Today, that monster is back, stronger, angrier, and more emboldened. Unless Pakistan confronts its strategic errors and addresses the root causes of terrorism, the TTP will remain not just a terrorist threat, but a symbol of state failure. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and comment. See you again soon with another topic. Until then, I am Tilak Devasher. Namaskar and Jai Hind.